Thank you so much. Appreciate your testimony, and we'll now move into questions and question and answer portion of the hearing. I will begin the questioning and recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Aaron, I just want to clarify one point, and you didn't say anything wrong, but I want to make sure people back home know. When we asked for the political affiliation, it was based on the person's public registration by party, and not by for NPR to calculate that. So we're not interested in if reporter John Doe is a Democrat, Republican, or an independent. Sometimes that's difficult because in many states, like my home state of Virginia, there is no party registration. And I'm not asking, and when we sent that letter, we weren't asking them to go around and do some kind of litmus test on whether they were a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, but just tell us what the registered numbers are based on, and I know you have disagreements with it, but based on Berliner's statements that it's heavily skewed towards one party. And while the population of D.C. might be disproportionately Democrat, clearly the surrounding areas, while more Democrat than my home area, should be taken into account. And the national NPR, wouldn't you agree, should be more reflective of all viewpoints and not just one. I'm not trying to stifle if somebody wants to be a progressive, but I do think if the taxpayers are paying for it, that we ought to be reflective of all voices. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, thank you for the question, Congressman. I do appreciate the clarity on your intent.
Yeah.
However, I worry about the impact of NPR leadership needing to go in and look at what are the political affiliations and registrations of all of their employees. That's not something that they would traditionally do in hiring. In fact, I believe in the District of Columbia, discrimination, of course, based on political affiliation is a protected class. So I don't think that NPR should be in the business of doing that. I don't think Congress should be in the business.
And be happy to talk with them about it. The concern was that it does appear that they lean way to the left, and that if all accents and all voices are to be heard, I don't hear a whole lot on the national news of folks with accents like mine or people in my district. Mr. Husick, I appreciate your comments very much. I thought that you had some good points, and one of them was that we should do a regular oversight of what NPR is doing. And I learned this morning, I've only chaired for the last 2 years, but I've been on this committee for about 14. We have not held a hearing to discuss NPR on any subject since 1999. So you would encourage us to have more regular things so the pressure doesn't build up to the point that we're at right now. Would you agree with that, or is that what you're trying to say?
That's definitely what I'm trying to say, and I'm focusing on specific metrics that would encourage NPR to serve a broader audience. I'm not proposing defunding NPR. I find a lot of common ground with Mr. Aaron on this, right? When I'm saying if NPR reports to you, and I'd put public broadcasting service in that same category, the PBS NewsHour.
And make sure you lean into the mic so it catches so the folks back home can hear you. I can hear you, but you can lean in. Yeah.
I would put NPR and the PBS NewsHour in the same category. Report on the demographics and geography of your audience to demonstrate and have an incentive to serve a broader audience. When Pew is the most neutral and respected, when it says 87% left liberal, that's disappointing. I don't think that reflects necessarily the views of Republican or Democrat reporters. They should be above the partisanship in their editorial duties. But if on the whole, the service is reaching only a select portion of the American public, that's a problem. And if they report to you regularly on progress they're making in expanding their geographic and demographic reach, I think that would be incentivizing for them to improve.
And you think that would be a better test than the one we asked for about political affiliation then? Because we're just trying to get a fair impression of what's going on. The demographic listenership would help with that, is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right. And the other thing you said was that some of those fees that are going back to NPR are required for the local NPR stations?
That's my understanding from my time at CPB, which is you pay dues to be part of the public 267-member NPR. There's 1,000 public radio stations, and 267 are NPR members, And to be an NPR member, you are required to pay dues in addition to purchasing.
And I'm running out of time, but I will say that historically, even when I was in the state legislature, I supported the local radio stations because they do some programming that you can't get elsewhere, like the history of bluegrass, which is important in my district. I yield back.
I'll just say the Stanley brothers are from Southwest Virginia. Can't beat them.
You can't beat them, although we've got the third generation coming along doing pretty good, but the original generation has all passed away. But they were still around when I was first elected. All right, I yield.